Hello, here is Paula, the crazy ozone lady, with a live stream about home ozone therapies 101. I will be talking about basics of home ozone therapy. And I was planning on waiting a little bit until a few people join me. I saw that before it showed that 9 people were waiting, but now it shows me 0, an audience of 0. Oh, 1! Yes! 1 person joined us! Very nice. Sally Bowles. Hi there. Hi, Sally. Oh, and there are more people. Okay, awesome. All right, well, already 6 people. I think this is my record because usually there are like 1 or 2 people who are watching. So, wow, 8 people already. This is amazing. Home ozone basics 101. Okay, I will wait maybe a little bit more until a few people more join. And this time I will take the opportunity to inform people about a new group on Mewi. So some of you may know what's been going on with big tech. Big tech has been censoring information, has been deleting groups and pages left and right. And recently they deleted the page of Dr. Josh X, who had millions of followers on Facebook. And when you go to his website, you can see that he's writing about like completely tame, completely benign stuff like detox with ginger or stuff like this. And they deleted his entire Facebook page with millions of followers. So in a situation like this, I decided to do a backup group. And so anyone who's interested, I recommend that you go to Mewi, open an account and look for the ozone group. And you will be asked to answer 1 question. Before it was 2 questions. Now I made it even easier to join the group. You just answer 1 simple question. And you can be a member of this group. And we already have, how many? I believe over 244 members. And you know what? This Mewi, so it works very, very similarly to Facebook. So the learning curve is close to 0. And it's really refreshing because you can really write about anything and everything that would have been deleted on Facebook, but here in this group you can really talk about everything. You can talk about the C word, if you know what I mean, and and it's cool. All right, so we have already a good amount of people watching. So before we start, I encourage people to comment because I can see your comments here in real time. So if anything should not be clear, please comment. I also may ask some questions every now and then, kind of as if it was kind of like a class, to see if people are following and if people are understanding what I'm explaining. Okay, so let's begin here with the overview. So I prepared here an overview of what I will cover today. So first we will talk about the 4 parts of every ozone setup. So let me fix this here. Okay, I wanted to change here something, but now it disappeared. All right, so 4 parts of every home ozone setup. So basically every ozone setup, every ozone equipment that you have consists of 4 parts. And so I will explain what those 4 parts are and what they do. And then I will also explain how ozone is produced. So you see, so this, as I said, this live stream is going to be a little dry, so there will not be a lot of demonstration. There will be some. Okay, look here, I prepared a second camera and I have some stuff here laid out and also some more stuff over here. You see all the accessories here. So I will do some demonstration, but in general this live stream will be more an overview and more like abstract and, as I said, a little dry. So I will explain how is ozone produced, so how an ozone generator works. And then we will talk about oxygen sources and regulators, so the different types of oxygen sources and the pros and the cons, and why, what does a regulator do, why do you need a regulator. And then next point will be ozone generators, so the different types of ozone generators. There are generators with dials and others that are just controlled by the oxygen flow. So we will get into this as well. And we will talk about accessories, so-called add-ons or accessories. So things like catheters and bags and ear scopes, water beakers and so forth. And we will talk about breathing protection. So this is quite important, and this should be part of every ozone setup, because you want to prevent, you want to avoid breathing ozone in. So ozone should not be breathed, should not be inhaled. And last point is the risks and contraindications of home ozone treatments. Okay, so this is our program today. So let's start with the first. So 4 parts of every home ozone setup. And so for this, I prepared here this little scheme here. So those are those 4 parts that every ozone setup that you buy or that you use, or even every ozone setup that your ozone doctor uses, consists of. So number 1, it's oxygen source and regulator. Number 2, ozone generator, accessories, and breathing protection. So oxygen and regulator, so this can be different types. This can be different types of oxygen tanks. There are medical tanks, there are industrial tanks, there are ultra high purity scientific grade tanks. Some people even use food grade oxygen that is sometimes used in food production. One can even use aviation oxygen, although I've been told that this is usually too expensive and it's not really used for ozone therapy. But theoretically, if you are a pilot or know a pilot and he or she has some oxygen, aviation oxygen, you could use it also for home ozone treatments. And the regulator, so the oxygen flow needs to be regulated, needs to be controlled, because it needs to be a very low flow of oxygen. And that low flow of oxygen then goes into the ozone generator that makes ozone out of just a tiny part of the oxygen. And then the accessories there are used to deliver that ozone, which is really a mix between ozone and oxygen, into whatever body cavity you want. So you can deliver the ozone, for example, into your mouth or then your stomach in the form of ozonated water, or you can direct the ozone into your sinus cavity, into your nose, in the form of nasal insufflations. You can also insufflate your ears, which is another body cavity, in the form of ear insufflations. And then the vagina, the rectum, those are another 2 body cavities, and you can also infuse ozone gas in there. And also your bladder, this is another body cavity. You can also introduce ozone into your bladder. Or you can apply ozone topically, so through your skin. Like, for example, with the help of a cup. Okay, you see there's too much brightness here. Let me reduce the brightness here. So a cup like this, so there would be a hose attached to this where the ozone would come in, and then you would put it against your skin like this, and then your skin would absorb the ozone that is inside the cup. And this is a destructor. So the excess ozone that goes into the destructor is neutralized and transformed into oxygen, and then just pure oxygen comes out. So this is that destructor here. This would be point number 4, breathing protection, because that destructor would protect you from breathing the ozone in. But there are many other types of breathing protections. So for example, a mask. This is another breathing protection, or a towel that you wear around your neck when you're in the sauna, or if you're inside the body bag. But I will go more into this a little later. But okay, so let's get to the next point. So how is ozone produced? So for this, I will expose you to my sketching, to my artistic talents here, and so I will draw something. So when you look at an ozone chamber, so basically the part of the ozone generator that produces the ozone. Wait a minute, I wanted to make this actually black. Then this looks like this. So it is basically a tube. Okay, it came out a little skewed, I don't know why. It's basically a two-walled tube, all right? So this would be an ozone chamber, and then basically on one side, oxygen comes in. Okay, here you're pumping in oxygen, all right? And so the oxygen then flows in here and here. So this whole space here between those two walls is saturated with oxygen, okay? All right, so there's oxygen all around here. And then there is electricity. So you expose this oxygen to electricity, because around this tube here, there are electrodes. Okay, I didn't draw them in, the electrodes, but you need to imagine that there are electrodes. And so through the electrodes, then electricity flows. And this electricity basically breaks up some of those O2 molecules and changes them into O3. Okay, and so what you're getting here at the end is O3. Well, in reality, it's a mix between O3 and O2. Okay, and so this is basically kind of like an overview, a scheme of how an ozone generator works. And now, why is this important to know? Because when you understand this, how this works, then you also understand the fact that the slower the oxygen flows through this ozone chamber, the higher the ozone concentration. Okay, and this is logical, because then you understand that the lower the oxygen flow is, then the more time the oxygen molecules spend here in the ozone chamber, and so more of them are exposed to the electricity and for a longer time. So the lower the oxygen flow is, the higher the ozone concentration. Okay, and so if you understand this basic concept of how an ozone generator works, then you also understand how to operate it, or it makes it easier for you to do so. Okay, now let's talk about the different types of oxygen. So one type of oxygen is oxygen in tanks, right? So here we have a medical oxygen. And by the way, so now some of you may think that you need a prescription to get medical oxygen. This is not true. Now, if that was true, I would not have primarily focused on medical oxygen, but this year in the United States, the regulations have changed, at least in some states. And so now you can buy filled medical oxygen tanks online without a prescription. So right now, in my opinion, there's really no reason, no excuse not to use medical oxygen. In my opinion, this is one of the best types of oxygen. There's one that is even better. That is the ultra high purity scientific grade oxygen. But medical oxygen is also very, very good. And so the reason why I recommend that people use medical oxygen, because as I said, you can just buy it with just a few clicks. You can buy it online. Hold on a second, by the way, can you hear me? Can you all hear me well? I'm checking here my microphone. It shows me that everything is in the green zone, so I hope that everyone can hear me well. If no, just please write in the comments. But yeah, so medical oxygen, as I said, you can buy it at omssupply.com. So I will include it later in the description underneath the video, but this website, omssupply.com, delivers medical oxygen, filled medical tanks without a prescription anywhere in the contiguous USA and Canada. So just with a few clicks, you can buy medical oxygen. And so the great thing about medical oxygen is that you can use it really for everything. So you can use it for non-invasive stuff, so all the insufflations, water, sauna, and so forth. But if in the future you will decide to do some invasive ozone applications like ozone IVs or ozone injections, then you will already have the right type of oxygen. Okay, so medical oxygen has become basically very, very easy to get. So medical oxygen would go with a medical low flow regulator. So low flow regulator is a regulator that has very low flows. Let's see if I can show this here. I don't think you can see it, but basically so low flow regulators, and then they can produce flows of like 1/32, 1/16, and 1/8 of a liter per minute. And so the reason why you need a regulator is because if you opened a tank that holds gas under pressure inside, it's under extreme pressure, and if I open it without a regulator, so if I opened it just like this, now this bottle is empty, okay, but hypothetically if it was full, and if I open it without a regulator on, then the oxygen would escape within a few seconds. But that's not what I want, right? Because I want to preserve the oxygen, and I want to get it out of the bottle in a low and controlled flow. And this is what the regulator does. And so different types of oxygen tanks, they call for different regulators. So a medical oxygen tank like this one has a so-called CGA 870 valve. Okay, let me remove this. So this part here of the tank, this thing here, this is called the valve, all right? And this is the regulator, right? So I put the regulator onto the valve. I need to make sure that it sits properly, otherwise it will leak. Right, so I screw it on, then I connect the tubing. Now this is silicone tubing. I prefer to use silicone tubing for the oxygen path, but others prefer to use PVC tubing. And if you do non-invasive treatments, in my opinion, this doesn't matter. And so now I have already set up my oxygen source. All right, so this tank is here ready to use. And now I'm gonna check again whether it's horizontal, if it's not skewed. Right, I try to move it a little bit. Okay, it doesn't move. It's not, so it seems to be screwed on really, really well. Okay, and now what I could do, I could then attach this to my ozone generator. Okay, so this is a PromoLive dual cell. Now let me make this a little less brighter because I think it is too bright. Here, if it's less bright, then you can see better. Okay, I also have in the oxygen line, you can see I use a filter that you can buy now on PromoLive. And so this is a good idea because basically that makes sure that whatever goes into your ozone generator is free of any contaminants and any particulate matter. And then I take a lure lock, a male lure lock like this, push it here into the tubing, and this allows me to connect now my oxygen source with my ozone generator, and it's still too bright because there's also everything is white on white. Okay, so you see now I have connected my oxygen source and my ozone generator. So now if I opened the oxygen tank, if it was full, and then I opened the regulator, and if I turned on the ozone generator, then it would already produce ozone, and then there would be ozone coming out of here, this port where it says ozone out. Okay, it's a little smudgy because I got some oil on it and it removed the letters. But right now I could already produce some ozone, but it would not help me a lot because if it comes out here, I cannot do anything. I cannot like catch it, right, and then do something with it. And so this is where the so-called accessories come in. Okay, so something, for example, like ear scopes, right? So those ear scopes, those are to perform ear insufflations. Okay, so they go on like this, and here ozone here comes in and flows into my ears. So I do not recommend, I could screw the ear scopes directly here into the ozone generator. Why I do not recommend this is because if you do this, then you will hear the noise of the ozone generator amplified through the ear scopes, and this can cause ringing in your ears for some time. For some people it's temporary, but we've had cases where it can be permanent. So this is why I not recommend connecting the ear scopes directly to the machine. Although all PromoLife machines are extremely silent and very quiet, but still, when you put it through the ear scope, the tiniest sound is magnified. So what I recommend is to use a trap between the ozone generator and the ear scopes. Okay, so now the question is, okay, how do you connect the strap here with this outlet? And for this, you need some additional tubing. Okay, so you take some extra silicone tubing, and most of you, if you have bought any generator from PromoLife, you have also received I think between 5 or 10 feet, either 5 or 10 feet of silicone tubing. So what you can do, you see now, before I said this is going to be a pretty dry demonstration, and yet it's turning exactly to be the opposite. Alright, so now, okay, so I want to connect the strap here with the ozone outlet. So I choose a piece that allows me to do this comfortably. Okay, so I choose like, what is this, maybe 1 foot. So I just cut it off. You see, this is the great thing about silicone. It's really soft, and you can just cut it with scissors. And now comes the magic, what I call. So those are the Lure-Lock connectors. So I love Lure-Lock connectors. They make home ozone life much easier. And so I push one of those connectors into one end of the tubing, screw it into the ozone out port on the machine. Then, okay, now I need to I want to connect this here with the inlet of the trap. Okay, and I look here, okay, what connector is connected to this inlet, and I see, okay, it's a male Lure-Lock. That means I need the counter piece, which is a female Lure-Lock. Okay, it looks like this, in order to connect it to this one. Okay, so I take this female, connect it here to the other end of this piece, and now I can screw it here onto the trap. Alright, so now I have oxygen source, ozone generator, trap, and now I can take my ear scopes and I connect the ear scopes to the out port of the trap. And this happens again with another pair of lure lock connectors. Okay, so I hope you can see this well. So basically, again, oxygen source, ozone generator, and then from ozone generator into the trap, and from the trap into the ear scopes. And now, if I also made sure that I'm protected from the extra gas, so if I put the fan in front of me so that it would blow right into my face, then I could put on the ear scopes, turn everything on, and I would be doing ear insufflations. Okay, so we have oxygen source with regulator, ozone generator, accessories, and the fourth part, breathing protection. Although I'm not a big fan of fans, I really prefer wearing a mask. Because the mask, you just put it on and it makes you flexible and you don't have anything blowing into your face. You can write on your computer, or you can do other things, read a book or whatever. So this was an example of an ozone setup, and with all the 4 different parts. Okay, but yeah, back to the oxygen sources. So yeah, so medical oxygen and medical oxygen tanks are just one kind of oxygen that you can use. But you can also use industrial tanks, right? Many people, I think, actually prefer industrial tanks. Now, this is a really small, cute, small and cute industrial oxygen tank from Promolife. Now, let me put this away for a moment. And so the good thing about industrial oxygen is that it's pretty cheap and it's really easy to get. So most welding shops, Airgas, I think the other outlet is called Prex Air, they will sell you industrial oxygen. And so a refill of an oxygen tank costs between $20 and $30. So it's really cheap, and the purity ranges between 96 to 99%. So it's perfectly adequate for any type of home ozone treatments, like anything non-invasive, like the insufflations, water, sauna, and so forth, can be performed with industrial oxygen. But as you can see here, this valve, so again, so this part here, this is called the valve, right? And you see it's opened here a little differently than on the medical oxygen, right? You don't need an extra key to open it. But you see, since it looks differently, it also requires a different type of regulator. Okay, and an industrial low flow regulator looks like this. And so this is how you attach a low flow industrial regulator to an industrial oxygen tank. Okay, now sometimes you need a wrench to make it tight. Other times you need a special tape around the thread because otherwise it leaks. But many times it's fine to just screw it in just like I did it right now. And then the same thing happens. So you take a piece of silicone tubing or PVC tubing. As I said, I prefer to use silicone tubing for everything and anything. And you connect it here to the tank, to the regulator, sorry, like this, right? And then again, you would cut it off wherever it's comfortable for you. Put in a lure lock connector and then connect it with the oxygen import on your ozone generator. Okay, now a few tips when you buy oxygen at your welding shop or your gas supplier. You do not want to mention ozone therapy. Okay, so you don't want to get into a discussion about medical treatments and any type of therapies with sales staff of a welding shop. Okay, Because if they catch winds, if they understand that you're intending to use the oxygen for some therapies, then they may not sell you the oxygen. Okay, so you want to be smart about it. Now, in most cases, they will not ask you what the oxygen is for, because it is freely available. You don't need a license. You don't need a prescription. Nothing. This is just like if you were buying, I don't know, apples at your supermarket. So you just go into the welding store and you say, I want, let's say, a 20 cubic feet bottle of oxygen, and they just give it to you. Okay, but now buy just the oxygen, just the bottle. Don't buy the regulator at the welding shop, because the regulator that you need is a low flow regulator, and the welding shop will not have a low flow regulator. So the low flow regulator needs to be bought at those special shops like PromoLife, Simply03, or Longevity. Okay, so this is yet another type of oxygen tanks, industrial oxygen. There's a third type. Well, there's more than a third, but a third type of tanks, and those are the so-called O2 ready tanks that PromoLife sells, and they have yet a completely different valve, and they also require a completely different regulator, and they contain super pure oxygen. So the oxygen in those O2 ready tanks can be used for any type of injections, any type of IVs, DIVs, ozone saline IVs, you name it. And the good thing is that you can buy it directly from PromoLife. So you can buy it when you buy your ozone generator and all your other ozone equipment. Then at the same time, you can already buy your oxygen tank, and with the regulator. All right. So now these were the oxygen tanks, but there's of course another type of oxygen source, and you can see it here in the back, and this is an oxygen concentrator. Okay, let me see if I can lift it. I'm gonna lift it. It wasn't even that heavy. Okay, so this is an oxygen concentrator. This is one of my favorite types of oxygen. So an oxygen concentrator, the great advantage of concentrators is that they do not need to be refilled. So an oxygen concentrator will never run out of oxygen. All you need to do is you need to check the filter here. There's like a filter, you can take it off, but I'm not going to do it right now. And you need to clean it off from time to time. And that's really basically it, from what I understand. But an oxygen concentrator also needs a regulator. And there are two different ways how you can fix this, basically, how you can obtain low flows from oxygen concentrator. Because most oxygen concentrators, they are high flow. That means that they produce flows between 0 and 5, or between 0 and 10 liters per minute. This one here produces flows between 0 and 5 liters per minute. But for home ozone treatments, you need flows. The highest that you need is half a liter per minute. So that would be a flow like right here. It's not even here on the scale of this thing. Okay, so the way to change the high flows to low flows, this is done with this type of external low flow regulator. And there's still too much light here. Let me try to make it less bright. All right, so this is a low flow regulator. So what you would do is you would attach this thing to this machine, and here, with the help here of this knob, you can then regulate the flow between 1/16 and half a liter per minute. So the maximum on this thing is half a liter per minute, and the lowest is 1/16, or even less than 1/16. Okay, so this is the setup. That's how it would look like if you used an oxygen concentrator. Now, sometimes you can buy oxygen concentrators with the built-in regulator already being a low flow regulator. So sometimes this thing, instead of showing between 0 and 5 or 0 and 10 liters per minute, it shows 0 to 1 liter per minute. But this is very, very rare. But sometimes what you can do, you can go to an oxygen shop and ask them if they can put in a low flow regulator into the machine. And sometimes this is possible. But in most cases, this is not what is being done, and instead people buy this external gadget here that transforms the high flow into low flows that you can then feed into your ozone generator. All right. Okay, I hope nothing bad is going to happen to my neck because I just lifted this heavy thing. Let's hope not. So far so good, but we'll see. All right, next part. So we talked about oxygen. We talked about how ozone is produced, and we talked about oxygen sources and regulators. And now let's talk about ozone generators. So there are different types of ozone generators. But let me put this away here for a moment. Okay, so one here, as you see, this is the PromoLife dual cell. And now let's take here a Simplio 3 Stratus 3. Okay, and so the difference between those two, now those are just examples. You can use also, as I said, any other ozone generator. You can use longevity, you can use different types, different models by Simplio 3, you can use different models by PromoLife. But what I wanted to point out here, that there's basically two different types of ozone generators. And there's one that has dial knobs. And so when you have a dial knob, there's just too much light here, I'm afraid. Okay, this is better. So if you have dial knobs, you see, like here, those two dial knobs, then this allows for much more variety. So you have much more different ozone concentrations that you can obtain. And so this chart, so here what you have printed on top, this is a so-called ozone chart that tells you which types of, oxygen concentrations you can produce with a given oxygen flow. So here is the oxygen flow. So you select, let's say, what is this here? 1/8 of a liter per minute. So this is what you would set on your oxygen regulator that I showed you before. That's that thing that goes on top of the oxygen tank. So you would select, let's say, 1/8 of a liter per minute as the oxygen flow. And then you can choose the ozone concentration. So if you want to go very, very low, let's say you're doing ear insufflations and you want to move very cautiously and be very careful, and you're just starting out, then you could choose a concentration of 12, which is very low for ear insufflations, right? But if you wanted to do water, for example, then you can go much, much higher. Then you can use ozone concentrations of 75, 95, or 110 micrograms per milliliter. Okay, so, and depending which concentration you want, you then choose the different settings here with the dials. So with the help of the dials, you can either create higher ozone concentration or lower. So for example, if I wanted to have 12 micrograms per milliliter for ear insufflations, then I would put the first dial on 1, and the second dial would be off. Okay, so I would be doing something like this. Okay, first dial on 1, second dial is off. And then I could do ear insufflations. Okay, so basically the great advantage of generators which have dial knobs is that you can do many more different ozone concentrations. And this is helpful because when you want a low ozone concentration of, let's say, 12 micrograms per milliliter, then you can achieve this also with low oxygen flows. And when you're doing ear insufflations, low oxygen flows are important. You don't want to blast a gas at like 5 liters per minute into your ears, because then pressure would build up and then you could rupture your eardrum. So generators which have dial knobs allow you to produce low ozone concentrations at low oxygen flows. And this is with machines with ozone generators where they don't have a dial knob. You see, this one does not. This is the Stratus 3.0. Doesn't have a dial knob. It only has an on and off switch. And this is this one here, right? It's only on and off. And then you say, okay, well, how do I regulate this? How do I get the different concentrations? Well, you regulate the concentrations through the oxygen regulator. Okay, so this would be on top of the oxygen tank, and this allows you, by turning here on this thing, this allows you to set different flows. And as I explained before, how fast the oxygen flows through the machine, this determines how much ozone is produced. So the faster the oxygen flows through the ozone generator, the lower the ozone concentration, right? And the slower the oxygen flows through the ozone generator, then the higher the ozone concentration. And this is exactly what you do. This is exactly how you regulate the ozone concentration with ozone generators that don't have a dial knob. So you simply just regulate the speed of oxygen, and depending on the speed of oxygen, you either get more or less ozone. And this has some disadvantages. One of them, as I mentioned, certain ozone administrations like ear insufflations, they require a low flow. Another example would be vaginal insufflations. So if you do vaginal insufflations with the direct method, that means that the catheter is inserted vaginally and then directly connected to the machine. Now, if you were to use a high oxygen flow of, let's say, 1 liter per minute for vaginal insufflations, this would dry you out very quickly. It doesn't even matter if you used ozone or not. If you just let pure oxygen flow vaginally at a high flow, just that the gas flow alone would dry you out. So vaginal insufflations, direct vaginal insufflations, is another example where you want to use low oxygen flows of like 1/8 of a liter per minute or 1/16 of a liter per minute. But with machines like this, you would get into the problem that you would get a too high ozone concentration. And so this is in general the disadvantage of those on and off machines which do not have a dial. But the Stratus 3.0, so Simplio 3, they've actually solved this problem pretty neatly. So because they designed a special regulator for this machine that has extra settings, and this allows you for a greater variety of settings than those regular on-off machines. And so even with a relatively low flow of like 1/16, 1/8, you are getting pretty good ozone concentrations of like 48, 55, which is pretty good. But other types, like for example, okay, I don't know if I want to mention them here, but you can go to my website where I compare the ozone generators. So there are certain brands of those simple on-off brick-like machines that are giving you ozone concentrations of above 80 micrograms per milliliter on 80, 90 or 100 at flows of like 1/16 or 1/32, and they are, in my opinion, unusable unless you ozonate water. So So yeah, so before you buy an ozone generator, it's a good idea to study the ozone output chart and to see what ozone concentration you're going to get at the given oxygen flow. And the most important oxygen flows that you want to look at is 1/8, 1/16. 1/8, 1/16. Basically between a half a liter per minute and 1/16. Above is not really interesting and below neither. So, but yet at 1/8, 1/16, you want to have ozone concentrations like between 40 and 60 micrograms per milliliter. If you go above that, then in my opinion, it's already too much. And if you go below that, then it's also not very interesting. Okay, so, but as I said, those are just two examples. There are many other machines. Now, let me show you another on-off machine from Simply 03. This is the straightest 2.0, and I think I actually like the 2.0 better than the 3.0. But don't tell this to Micah. This is the Promolife Mini. This is another on and off machine from Promolife. It is also very interesting, very nice ozone concentrations. You see it has at 1/16, it's at 52, so it's right in the range between 40 and 60 micrograms per milliliter. At 1/8, you have 38. And really with those two flows, 1/8 and 1/16, you can do nearly every application that you want. Okay, so this was that for ozone generators. And now we go to the accessories. Okay, somebody writes, wear your hat for a few minutes. Now, the hat is further away. I would have to go and grab it. I don't want to do this right now. Okay, now let's go to the accessories. Okay, so I'm gonna bring back here my oxygen tank. All right, so I have oxygen tank. The oxygen is connected to the oxygen input. And now I want to do different things. I wanted to, before I showed ear insufflations, I also showed a cup. Okay, so now let's go back to the cup. Okay, so basically, but okay, let me show you the whole setup. All right, so here we have the 4 components. Okay, oxygen, 1, 2, ozone generator, 3, the accessories. Okay, I'm gonna put here also a catheter and a bag. And here we have a mask, so this is 0.4 breathing protection, or a towel, or a fan. Okay, so now I think I need a little more light. Okay, so most people, they have just one type of oxygen, one ozone generator, but many different accessories. So depending what you want to do, you will be exchanging the accessories. So if you want to do water, you will use a water beaker. If you want to do cupping, you will use a cup. If you want to do direct insufflations, you will use a bag. If you want, and a catheter. If you want to do vaginal insufflations, you will just use a catheter. If you want to do ear insufflations, you will use an ear scope, and so forth, right? And then you have the different types of breathing protection. So from the mask to a towel to the fan. But in most ozone setups, so those two things, the oxygen source and the ozone generator, stay the same. And the only thing that you exchange, depending on what you want to do with the ozone, depending on which cavity you want to treat, are those accessories. Okay, so now before I showed you ear insufflations, so now let's look at if you want to do cupping. So, okay, so now here you have ozone coming out of your machine, but you want to direct it into the cup. So how do you do this? Well, this nifty cup that you can also buy from Promolife, and it's made out of silicone. It's really cool. But you see here on the side, it has an inlet. This is where the ozone will come in. And it's a female Lulok. So what you will need, you see, is a male Lulok. Like this. Okay? And so you will connect here the silicone tubing with the Lulok. Okay, so I'm gonna take this. Okay, but no, this is too short. Because for cupping, I need something longer. Okay, so for cupping, I'm gonna take this super long piece. And I need yet another Lulok. And see, this is where you need Luloks with everything. Okay, so I connected one end of the silicone tubing with a male Lulok. Now I screw it into the ozone out port. Now I take the other male Lulok, connect it with the other end of the silicone tubing, and now connect it here with the cup. Done. Okay, so the way I would do this, if I wanted to do cupping, now I would also prepare some warm water, and then I would, let's say if I wanted to cup this part of my body, then I would spray some warm water here to make sure that the skin is warm and moist, because then this is when the pores open up. I would turn on the oxygen valve, I would turn on the oxygen regulator, I would set the desired ozone concentration with my dials here, and then I would put it here on my skin, right? And at the same time, I would put the fan in front of me, either the fan or I would wear the mask to blow away the ozone. Because when you do cupping, there will be some ozone escaping, okay? Although there is a destructor attached to it, but there will be some extra ozone coming out anyway. So you want to protect yourself, right, from the ozone. And this is how I would do the cupping. And then every now and then I would respray the skin and then cup and then put the cup on it again, and then reapply some warm water and so on. Okay. Hold on a second. I need to blow my nose. Just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so this is how I would do cupping. Now let's say I'm done with the cupping and I want to do a rectal insufflation. So what I would do, I would then disconnect the cup and I would choose a different accessory. In that case, it would be a bag. Okay, so the bag can be filled directly here from the machine. Although there is a better way to do it, and I'm gonna show in a bit. But so if I wanted to change the application, I leave the oxygen source and the ozone generator and just change the accessory. So then I screw on here the bag into the ozone generator, let the bag fill, then close the clamp, unscrew the bag, insert the catheter into my rectum, connect the catheter with the bag, open the clamp, and then squeeze the contents of the bag into my rectum. Okay, so this will be another way to administer ozone. So this is to show you that you see what changes the whole time are the accessories, again, depending on what you want to do with the ozone. And now if I wanted to do, let's say, vaginal insufflations, and the way I prefer to do vaginal insufflations is the direct method. So I take my tubing here. This is super long. This is too long, you know. Usually I will make it shorter. But so I take my silicone tubing with 2 male lure locks. I screw the catheter onto the silicone tubing, insert the catheter, put some towel on my lap, put on the mask, and then open the oxygen, open the ozone generator, and start infusing the ozone vaginally. All right. So yeah, as I said, there's always those 4 components, right? Oxygen, ozone generator, accessories. All right. So now I think we covered the accessories. All right. Now I lost my overview. I don't know what happened with my overview. Okay. But the next point were the accessories, and we covered this already. But okay, there's one thing that I like to do today, and that is to show you how to assemble a destructor system. Okay, so this is a destructor. So this is something that destroys ozone. So when ozone comes in one side, then the granules inside, they neutralize the ozone, and what comes out is oxygen. And so what I recommend is that people use this thing when they fill, for example, bags to do rectal insufflations. So because instead of attaching the bag directly here to the machine, I think it's better to use the system here. And this is very easy. So this is again something that you can buy on PromoLife or Simplio3. They also have destructors. So it's this destructor, and here's a 3-way valve that is attached to it. And the 3-way valve, basically that's exactly what the name says. So it has 3 ports. Okay, so here where the ozone will come in, and this will be here, you will be able to connect your bag or syringe or whatever you want to fill with ozone. And here's the destructor. And now depending on how you turn the off valve here, you will direct the ozone either to the destructor or into the bag. And so in order to complete this, because you want to attach this to here to the ozone port. Now, so you see, you cannot directly attach it because those are two, because they're not compatible. Okay, so you need another lure lock connector, and you need another male lure lock connector. Okay, so this is what you do. You attach a male lure lock connector here to the end. Then we'll take a shorter piece of silicone tubing. Okay, so let's say we use this one. This is the same one that I used before. Okay, let's see, this is really difficult to get them out. But this is exactly what you want. You want the lure locks to sit really tightly in the silicone tubing, because then you know that it's airtight. Okay, I connect it like this and like this. Okay, and so I have now, I can set this up here. And so what's the advantage? What's the advantage of having this destructor system attached to it? So, because when you want to fill a bag to perform rectal insufflations, so what you want to do, you want to turn on the oxygen and you want to let it flow for 15 seconds, 30 seconds, because you want to make sure that all the lines are saturated with pure oxygen, because you want to inject only oxygen ozone into your body. You don't want to introduce air. So you first flush everything with ozone, and then you turn on the ozone generator and you allow the machine to warm up. And in that time, you turn the off lever here, so down to the port, so that the ozone will flow into the destructor. And so this allows you to let the ozone flow for a little while without being exposed to it. And only after, let's say, 15 or 20 seconds after the machine has warmed up, only then do you attach the bag. And then, oh, so you didn't see this. So I attach the bag here to this port, and only then do you start filling the bag by turning here the off lever towards the destructor. And so now you will be filling the bag with ozone. And then when the bag is filled, you again flip the switch here, you close this, you close the clamp, you disconnect the bag, and you can do your rectal insufflations. So this is what I recommend using with your ozone setup, this destructor. Because if you don't use this destructor station, this filling station, then you're running the risk of being exposed to the excess ozone. So this is, I think, a good thing to have, and it's really simple to assemble. The thing that you're gonna get from PromoLife when you buy the destructor system is basically this part and already this three-way valve, and all you need to do is attach this silicone silicone piece with two Mewi locks, and you attach it like this. Okay, all right, so we talked about oxygen, ozone generators, accessories, and now breathing protection. So breathing protection is quite important, and many people, they disregard it, and unfortunately the ozone sellers like PromoLife and Simplio3 and also Longevity, they actually don't sell the breathing protection. They only sell the destructors, but the destructors have a limited usage, because when you do, for example, ozone bagging, then you cannot use a destructor. If you do an ozone sauna, you cannot use a destructor. The cupping, yes, there is a destructor attached to it, but there is still excess ozone that will be coming out. The same with vaginal insufflations, right? You can't use a destructor there. So you need some additional protection. And as I said, my favorite is the mask. For me, that was a game changer, but not many people are fans of a mask. If you're not, then what you can do, if you use the ozone bag, the ozone body bag, just use a towel around your neck. So you'll be sitting in the ozone box and with a towel like this to make sure that you don't breathe the ozone in that would be coming out of the neck hole from through the sauna tent. Or, as I said, a fan. I used fans in the past a lot, but now I prefer the mask. But if you use the fan, so you want to make sure that it really blows at you, and that you really don't smell the ozone. And when you don't smell the ozone, then you know it's positioned correctly. Some people, they put it away too far. Others, they have fans on their ceilings, and so some wonder if a ceiling fan is enough. No, a ceiling fan is not enough. A ceiling fan will help you air the room out when you're done with your ozone applications, but it will not prevent breathing in the ozone during the application. So you need a fan like this that will really, and it may need to be as close to your face as I am right now. Okay, so those were the 4 parts. We talked about everything, about oxygen, ozone generator, how ozone is produced, about the different accessories, ear scopes, cups, bags, catheters. This is an a water bubbler with a destructor already attached to it, which is a great invention. This is something that PromoLife came up with, and I absolutely love it. So you're ozonating the water, and the excess ozone goes straight into the destructor, and you can ozonate your water and sit in the same room while it's being ozonated. And we talked about the breathing protection. And now I lost my overview. I must have deleted it accidentally. So I don't know what the next point was, but I think risks and contraindications, if I remember correctly. So yeah, risks of home ozone treatments. Now, ozone therapy in general is really one of the safest methods ever invented by humans for any therapeutical purposes. It beats really anything and everything in conventional medicine. It even beats chiropractic. So it's super safe. Now this, as I said, ozone therapy in general, so this includes also invasive treatments that are performed intravenously or under surgical environment. But besides that, home ozone therapy, which, as I said, involves mostly non-invasive treatments, this is even more safe than the invasive ozone treatments. So it's super safe, super safe, super extra safe. And so just to give an idea how safe it is, because you always need to put things in context, okay? So when I say that something is super safe, now that does not mean that it is completely void of risks. There's such a thing does not exist. So even the safest things like drinking water can be dangerous. So there's actually more well-documented cases of people who have died from drinking water, I'm not kidding, than from any type of ozone therapy, including DIV, including major autohemotherapy, including any type of home ozone therapy. Okay, so I was able, when I was researching, when I was writing one article, I was able to find 18 different cases of people who have died from drinking water. Okay, and of course now drinking water is super safe, right? No one, your doctor would not warn you, oh, be careful, people die from drinking water, you need to be careful. There are no black box warnings on your water bottle when you buy it. So yes, drinking water is extremely safe, and yet some people have died from drinking water. The same with chiropractic. Chiropractic is another super safe treatment. Many people get benefit from it, but some people have died. Like there is even more cases than from drinking water. There are more cases people who have died after chiropractic adjustments than from ozone therapy. So, but yet chiropractic is super safe. Yes, people have died. Doesn't change the fact that it's extremely rare. Thousands of people die from aspirin or from ibuprofen or paracetamol medication, over-the-counter pain medication. So literally thousands of people die in America alone from over-the-counter medication, and yet they're super safe. So one needs to see things in context. So yes, there are some risks involved with home ozone treatments, but they are really easy to manage. And so the major risks with non-invasive home ozone treatments is that you will accidentally breathe too much ozone. And but if you heed the recommendations, if you heed the warnings, and if you use a mask, towel, fan, destructors, all the things that I mentioned, then you will put the risk of breathing ozone into a near minimum. And even if you happen to breathe in some ozone, it's not that any amount of ozone is dangerous. So just tiny amounts when you smell the ozone smell, but you don't feel any harshness in your throat, you're not starting to cough, you don't feel a constriction in your lungs, you don't experience shortness of breath, then this is not dangerous. This is what you will also be exposed to if you go out after a lightning, after a storm with lightning, because lightning can naturally produce ozone in nature. So sometimes after a thunderstorm you can smell that ozone smell, and this is also not dangerous. So if you get a small whiff of ozone during your home ozone procedures, this will not damage your lungs, this will not cause cancer or kill you or do something horrible to you. It's just, you will just smell some ozone, that's it. Now, it does become dangerous if you start feeling a constriction in your lungs, pain in your throat. Sometimes if it's too much, you can get the feeling of like passing out. So this can be then dangerous if the exposure to the ozone gas is prolonged and the ozone concentration is too high. There have been cases of people who worked, for example, for city, city water and sewage water treatment plants, and so accidents happened, and they were exposed to massive amounts of ozone, and they breathed it in, and they had to be hospitalized, and they did experience, from what I understand, permanent lung damage. But this is, this is because an accident happened, because the equipment with which they were working was somehow defective, and something happened that should not have happened. But yes, ozone can't do damage, but the amounts that you will be exposed to during home ozone treatments, this is in most cases is minimal and negligible. But again, you should take care not to breathe in too much of it. So this is really the main risk, and it's very, very, very low and easily to manage. With non-invasive treatments, this is the main thing that can go wrong. With invasive treatments, so with intravenous treatments, with things that need to be performed by surgeons, this is another topic. And also, when ozone treatments should not be performed, now any type of ozone treatment, is number one, if you have a transplanted organ. And the reason for this is because if you have a transplanted organ, then you need to take lifelong medication that suppresses your immune system. And if you don't do this, then your immune system may reject the foreign organ. And ozone therapy, being an immune system stimulant, can basically counteract that immune suppressive medication, and can overstimulate your immune system and can cause your body to reject a transplanted organ. So people with transplanted organs should not perform any type of ozone therapy. It doesn't matter whether invasive or non-invasive. Then there's also hyperthyroidism. So if your thyroid produces too much thyroid hormone, then you should also not perform ozone therapy, because this could cause a crisis, because ozone is known to stimulate hormone production, and so this would not be a good combination, would not be a good outcome. So transplanted organs, hyperthyroidism. There's also discussion about G6PD deficiency, that some people with this deficiency, it's said that they should not perform ozone therapy. But having said this, so this is what I call a theoretical precaution, because I could not find a single case of someone with a G6PD deficiency who did ozone therapy and then experienced an adverse reaction. But I recently had a client who was diagnosed with G6PD deficiency, but that was already after he had done a course of major autohemotherapy, I believe it was, and he was perfectly fine. He actually derived some benefit from it. So this shows that maybe G6PD deficiency is not necessarily a contraindication for ozone therapy, although there are different types of G6PD deficiencies. There are many different types of this genetic mutation, so maybe some are more and some are less predisposed to problems with ozone therapy. We don't know. But from what I understand, those would be the two main reasons. One other thing is, if you don't feel confident dealing with ozone equipment, if you feel, this using all this stuff and, attaching the regulator, if you're just not technically inclined that way, or if you're just super scared and you really cannot grasp how to put this all together, that I would consider this another contraindication. Some people just don't have the head to deal with this type of stuff and rather outsource it to someone else. If that's the case in your case, then do that. Then rather go to a doctor and have your doctor administer the ozone treatments. Yes, so let's see how many people are still. Whoa, still 19 people are watching. Incredible. So, and you have not fallen asleep, I guess, maybe. Okay, let's see the questions, comments. Hello from Florida. Hi, Flo. Where can I find what ozone treats? Do you know who does ozone in New Jersey or surrounding areas like New York City, Pennsylvania, Connecticut? So, this is to find an ozone practitioner close to you. It's best to just Google it. Just Google ozone therapy and your location, your city, and it should show you the next ozone therapist, the closest therapist to you. Where can I find what ozone treats? So so there are many websites that list all the different conditions that can be treated with ozone therapy. It's a huge list. It's a very long list. Just Google it. I would also say just Google it, or join our group on Mewi, the ozone group, and ask questions there, and you will get probably answers from people who will say, hey, I had this and I treated it with ozone successfully. You can also go to my website. There are some success stories on my website as well, and you can based on the success stories you can also find out what can be successfully treated with ozone. Jay Johnson asks, do you have suggestions for the best way to learn which methods are best for certain conditions? Example, when is cupping a method to consider? What is rectal best for water, etc.? Okay, this is quite a long list long topic that I would have to cover here. But in general, now there are exceptions to this, but in general, you want to choose the ozone application that is able to treat the affected area as directly as possible. So when would be cupping used? So for example, if you have an eczema on your skin, or if you have some other type of inflammation or an infection on your skin, then you can direct with the cup, you can direct the ozone directly to that area. Right now, what are rectal insufflations best for? Now, I am let's say a special case in the ozone world, in that I regard rectal insufflations mostly as a local treatment. Now, I understand many others think that rectal insufflations are a potent systemic treatment. I think it's only not necessarily a potent, and more like a mild systemic treatment, in my opinion. So rectal insufflations I would use for anything rectal related. So colorectal C word, colorectal C word. Big Tech is watching. Thought Police is watching. Hopefully you know what I mean. Or any prostate problems, so prostate inflammation or enlarged prostate or an infection in the prostate. That's what I would use rectal insufflations for. Colitis, I would also use rectal insufflations for that. Although for colitis also dietary changes. Water, you look, where does water go primarily? So water goes into your mouth, esophagus, and then stomach, and then small intestine. So basically anything related in those areas. If you have throat ache, drinking ozonated water may help. If you have some problems with your stomach, maybe H. pylori infection, drinking ozonated water could help. I saw very good results with ulcers. I had ulcers in the small intestine, and drinking ozonated water resolved ulcers. And I at least 2 cases in my experience, possibly 3 times. So either 2 or 3 times I was able to get rid of ulcers in my small intestine just by drinking ozonated water, and it was just a matter of 1 or 2 sessions. So 1 or 2 days. So I would drink the ozonated water for 1 or 2 days, and then the ulcers were resolved. Pretty amazing. So you look like this is how I like to approach the situation. So you look where the affected area is. Let's say if you have joint pain, if you have generalized joint pain, so your elbows, knees, hips are hurting, In my opinion, the best way to treat this will be an ozone sauna, because an ozone sauna will treat the whole body, so all your joints essentially, right? But as I said, there are exceptions. Vaginal insufflations, in my opinion, vaginal insufflations are possibly a stronger systemic treatment than rectal insufflations, and ozone saunas for sure are a stronger systemic treatment than rectal insufflations. But again, it also depends what you're treating. Jill Straley says, I have a Simply O3 and doing vaginal and rectal. What level would you do for Lyme? I am doing between 8 and 9. What do you recommend? Okay, you mean the straightest 3.0? I assume. Okay, level 8 and 9. Let's see what this is. So setting 8 and 9, this is 48 micrograms per meter and 55 micrograms per meter. So those are good ozone concentrations. But for Lyme, so Lyme is a systemic infection, so I would not necessarily concentrate on those two treatments. I would maybe use them as an adjunct treatment, but I would probably mainly do ozone saunas if you can stand the heat. Some people have problems with heat, but if you don't have a problem with heat, then do ozone saunas. Otherwise, do the ozone body bag. And I would also add drinking ozonated water. So I think drinking ozonated water is also an undervalued ozone treatment that probably has stronger systemic treatment than is assumed. But for Lyme, so this is what I would do, ozone sauna, ozone body bag, add drinking ozonated water. You can keep doing the vaginal and rectal, but basically as a side thing mostly. And I would also see if you can find an ozone practitioner in your area to get intravenous ozone. Jay Johnson again asks, on the topic of saunas, if someone wore a mask, could you set up a full body far infrared heat sauna and pump the ozone into it in order for the ozone to get absorbed into your skin? Yes. So people do this. So PromoLife has also two different far infrared saunas which are ozone compatible, because apparently most infrared saunas are not ozone compatible. That's the word on the street. Okay, I don't know this for sure, but that's what I hear, that the ozone the heat the heater components, the panels that create the heat, they may not be ozone compatible. So, but ProLife has ozone compatible infrared saunas. But so you can totally do this. And and a mask while you're in the sauna. This is what I do. I wear a mask and a towel around my neck while in the sauna. Okay, JW Penny, how can I get more ozone into steam sauna? Possible to use to a generator? Oh yeah, you can, but you see, okay, here's the thing. So I will be careful with this, because with the ozone sauna, it is very, very common that people develop a very itchy rash. And the higher the ozone concentration you use, is the higher the risk of developing this rash. That's one point. The other is that the higher the risk, and then the more severe the rash will be. And that rash, I've seen people develop that rash already at ozone concentrations like 15 micrograms per meter, which is very, very low. So if such a low ozone concentration will already trigger a pretty severe rash, then if you use two different ozone generators and really max out the ozone concentration, this can backfire big time, So I would be cautious. Really good ozone concentrations for ozone saunas are like between 15 and 30 micrograms per meter. I personally would not necessarily go above that unless I had like some, flesh-eating infection or gangrene on my legs or something, so in extreme cases. Lisa Tarantino, good morning. Thank you for doing this live video. Well, thank you for watching. Okay, there was some other. Elliot Feldman, was the device to make drinking water from ProLife? If you mean this one, yes, this one was from ProLife. It's really cool gadget. Really cool. The destructor attached to it. Where is your clinic? I don't have a clinic. I used to have a clinic, but I had to close it because I got neck problems. And honestly, I feel them acting up a little bit. I think I need to finish this this live stream. Please demonstrate with a conical flask kit how to do nasal insufflation. The conical flask kit, how to do nasal insufflation. Okay, not sure I understand. So nasal insufflations, in order to do nasal insufflations, you don't need a flask. All you need is just a syringe. You know, you fill the syringe like 10 or 20 milliliters with ozone, let's say like 10, 15 micrograms per milliliter, and put it into your nose. Okay, first hold your breath, put it into your nose, empty the syringe into your nose, then close it, wait as long as you can wait, then expel. That's it. This is how you do nasal insufflations, unless you mean breathing ozone bubble through olive oil. Okay, I will do another live stream where I will go through all the different applications, and I will show them one by one how to use each one of them. Okay, so and then I will also go show the breathing ozonated olive oil. What conditions does ear insufflation help? There's many different conditions. So I have one man who commented on my website that he used ear insufflations to get rid of the C word, the forbidden C word. Sorry, this is ridiculous, but you know, people are being deleted and cancelled left and right, and like there are certain topics that you cannot talk about. So there's this one C word that's very dangerous. Many people die from the C when they catch it. Not when they catch it. You don't catch it. You develop the type of C that I'm talking about. You develop it, and so he had that on his voice box. So his voice box was affected, and there was this growth that was happening on his voice box, and he was doing ear insufflations, and he says that this basically got rid of the C on his voice box. And you can find his comments on my website. When you Google ear insufflations and you find the power of ozone, which is my website, go to the comments and you can see. Many people who do ear insufflations, they experience an enhanced mood. So if you have, for example, a mood disorder, or you suffer from depression or anxiety, then some people report that lifts their mood and gets rid of the depression, or at least helps with depression. Some people also say that their cognitive function improves, so they say they're able to think better, that their mind becomes cleared up. Some people who experience brain fog say that ear insufflations help them with that. I also experienced, when I had dandruff on my skull here, and it was here on the top of the back of the skull. I would do ear insufflations and they would help me with the dandruff. Or what I would also do is to help me with the dandruff. This is pretty crazy, you know, to think that what you put in your nose, it actually affects the back of your skin. Like, that's crazy, but like that's what happened. So I would ozonate water and I would sniff the water. So I would do basically nasal rinses with ozonated water, and that would clear up the dandruff at the back of my head. But yeah, ear insufflations. Yeah. So the things that I mentioned, also anything sinus related. So if there's a sinus congestion or sinus infection, then ear insufflations can help as well. Some people use it if they have jaw problems, so anything with the teeth, then ear insufflations can help as well. Other people have a problem that their neck becomes very stiff, So some people with cervical instabilities, they have always like clenched muscles in their neck, and when they do ear insufflations, they say that this seems to loosen up the muscles, and some of the pain that is because of this tension goes away. So with ear insufflations, yeah, there's a long list of conditions of things that you can treat with ear insufflations. Emma Bailey, sorry if I'm botching up your name. Can you use vitamin C IV along with ozone? Would you take a few days in between those two, since one is oxidant and one is antioxidant? So here's the thing. So I think if you want to get the most out of ozone therapy, then yes, I would space them apart, but not necessarily. You don't have to wait a whole day. You can if you want, but you don't have to. So 2 to 3 hours are enough, to get the full benefit of the ozone therapy. Now, but many people, many ozone doctors, they combine the two. They give ozone IVs to their patients immediately after giving them ozone IVs. So what did I say? Yeah, they give them vitamin C. They give them vitamin C IVs right after they gave them ozone IV, and they say results. They see results, right? So you can totally do this, and you will most likely also see results. But here's the thing, that you cannot tell whether the result that you're getting is mainly because of the vitamin C or because of the ozone, or if you could get an even bigger result if you had spaced those two modalities apart. Okay, so the point is, if you combine them too close together, nothing bad will happen. Most probably you will still see an improvement in whatever you're treating. But in my opinion, it is also more cost efficient, I would say, if you space them apart. That's my take. Okay, T-alignment ozonites. Okay, the ozonites. Oh, you meant the breathing ozone through bubble through ozone. Yeah. So we will do this in another live stream where I will go through all the home ozone treatments. Well, the 7 most common ones, the most popular ones, and breathing ozonated olive oil is one of them. And so then I will show it there. Okay. Paolo, where's your clinic? I closed my clinic. Unfortunately, what I'm doing right now is just blogging, doing live streams. I had to close my clinic because I got problems with my neck. Elliot, thank you for the excellent presentation. Well, thank you. Thank you for watching. Whoa, 24 people. Oh my God, this is amazing. This is my absolute record, I believe. And it's 1 hour and a half. And you've stuck through it. All right. Well, I think this was it for now. A disclaimer, of course, none of this, what I talked about here, is to be understood as medical advice. If you're sick, go see a proper doctor, not some crazy woman on the internet. Yeah, so don't misunderstand. Don't take anything here on this as medical advice. All right. So I hope this was helpful. If you have more questions, post them in the comments. And I will do another live stream, as I said, where I will talk about all the 7. Okay, I will talk about the 7 most popular home ozone treatments. So I will demonstrate how to do them and how to do them as safely as possible in order to exclude the possibility of inhaling too much ozone. Okay, so I will talk about and I will demonstrate how to do rectal insufflations, vaginal insufflations, ear insufflations, nasal insufflations, breathing ozone bubble through olive oil, ozonating water, and ozone sauna. Okay, but this will be announced in both ozone groups. So that was that. Thank you very much. See ya.